Hello, and welcome to MidSouth Matters on Germantown Municipal Television and to our special election broadcast featuring candidates for the Germantown Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I'm your host, Ruth Dunning. My guest today is Dean Massey, who is running for Germantown Alderman position 3. Dean was born in Oxford, Mississippi, and raised by his father, a farmer, and his mother, a second-grade teacher. He graduated from the University of Mississippi with a degree in criminal justice. Dean and his wife, Christine, have called Germantown home for 14 years and are owners of their own business, Massey Insurance. Together, they are the new parents of a 2-month-old baby boy. Welcome, Dean. We're delighted you're here.
Thank you for having me.
First thing I want to know is why you're running for office. What do you think your qualifications are?
Well, Ruth, the city charter defines what the qualifications are. You have to be 25 years old and I think lived in the city for 60 days. But besides that, I grew up in a small town, a small conservative town. Lived down the street from the sheriff, across the street from the fire chief, and we had a real sense of community and love for country. And I think out of that community, I gained a sense of duty and a love for my country and a duty to that country and a sense of service. And so I go to Sunday school with Pat and Jesse McClurkin. They're our Sunday school teachers. And Pat stopped me one day after Sunday school and said, "Dean, I think you have the background to run for the board and bring some positive change to Germantown." I was a criminal justice major coming out of college and interned with the University of Mississippi Police Department. Pat knew that I was working toward my designation as a certified fraud examiner. And she knew that I had a strong background in business. I've owned my business or been in business for 14 years now. And so the combination of that and my moral values, Pat asked me to run. At the time, Christine and I were getting ready to have our first son, so it might not have been the ideal time, but Christine was the one who pointed out to me that we don't always get to choose when we serve.
That's true.
And so as a result of that, and with Christine's blessing, if you will, I decided to offer myself as a candidate for the Germantown Board of Aldermen.
Okay, good. And so you moved to Germantown. Why did you move here? What do you think is good about Germantown?
You know, I was a young professional when I moved here, and when I was first searching for houses and places to live, I looked in the Midtown area and I looked in Germantown, but my aunt and uncle actually first brought me to Germantown and let me stay with them for a few months while I did an internship in Memphis. And so I got to know Germantown, and we'd been coming to Germantown all my life, so I had a sense of the community, reminded me very much of my hometown. And so really that's what brought me originally, but what made me buy a house in Germantown and actually call it home was that sense of community. You know, it wasn't the wider bike lanes or more stores. I wanted a place that I could live where the people around me were like my parents, that the family still sat around the dinner table at home, the father still prayed before dinner, and we had good schools and good police, and those were the things that were important to me.
Good. And what now, if you're elected, would you like to see happen in Germantown? And you can take this 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, if you have long-range planning. What do you think would be the very best things that you'd like to see and be part of helping develop?
Well, Ruth, I think my goal is to unite the community. You know, I want people to regain their faith in government. And in order to do that, you have to have good, honest, moral leaders who listen to the people. I think we've got a problem in our country as a whole where we have politicians who set their platforms to serve their agendas, and then they take that to the people and try to get them to believe in their platforms or their agendas. I think that's backwards. I think the politicians, the elected officials, should take the agenda of the people to the governing body and try to get the governing body to do what the people want. So I'm hoping to reverse things and be more of a representative of the people, take their agenda and get their agenda through, rather than having it the other way around, so that it's the people's voice that's heard rather than the politicians.
Okay, and have you heard any of these voices? What are some of the things you'd like to see?
Sure, I have. I've been out campaigning, and we're doing a lot of ours the old way, just going door to door, having meetings with people, and that's what we're hearing from everyone. You know, it's that anytime there's an important issue in Germantown, it seems that there's this sense of urgency and an immediacy to pass it before the people really have any input. And so what I'm hearing is that people want to be given notice of these big issues a little bit sooner so that they're able to...
Any examples of these issues?
Well, the recent school, for example, you know, they're wanting to put the school site down on Winchester.
Mm-hmm.
The people that I've talked to that really have a stake in that game with kids, and I'm one of those people now. I have a 2-month-old, and so this could very well affect me one day. So when I'm talking to these folks, they said, you know, we basically got notice of this a few days before the aldermen were supposed to vote on the issue of whether or not to sign a contract and determine whether or not they were going to move forward. And so that's one of the very, very recent, more serious issues that affects a whole bunch of people, where the voters just feel like they didn't have any input from their elected officials before a decision was made.
Anything else that is part of your platform?
The Germantown Road realignment, I'm against the Germantown Road realignment.
Explain where it is now and where some hope to realign it.
Well, I don't know that I completely understand your question, but I think what you're asking me is, where does it stand in the community? And on one hand, they're saying that the road realignment is dead, but there is funds that have been set aside for it for 2019.
Which roads?
It's the Germantown Road. They were going to extend the road through West Street. This was a big issue a few years ago. And so they were going to have to take out some of the old historical buildings there on West Street. And the people just said, we don't want a road going all the way from Germantown straight through to Winchester and having this influx of traffic through our city.
That's right. That's what I was asking
okay.
about. Yeah.
And so the people were upset about it, and there were meetings held, and really there was an uprising in Germantown, and so they delayed it. And I think that's all it has been, is just a delay in the construction. It's a key part of the smart growth policy, and so I think when 2019 comes around, they're probably going to start that project up again.
And you prefer not to have it?
I prefer not to have it, yes ma'am.
Is there anything you would prefer to have done other than that? Any realignment anywhere? You think just leave it alone, it's good as it is?
You know, Ruth, I like the way the community is situated right now. I think the road realignment was started to favor a development, and I think that the people of Germantown as a whole, the majority of the people said no, and I think that as an elected official, I think the elected officials should respect the wishes of the voters.
Okay. You have a background in business.
I do.
How do you think that business background can aid you in decision-making on the board?
Sure. Well, it will help me, of course, balance budgets. We sit with boards of directors. My business is insurance, and so we write directors and officers in insurance policies. I understand conflicts of interest. I understand what not to do with regard to decisions that I might have a personal self-interest in by virtue of working with corporations, because that's the way it is on any other board of directors. You know, you can't make a decision that affects your personal interests.
So you would recuse yourself on any issue like that? Okay.
I would, yes ma'am.
And any other issues that you think you could help with?
Well, from a business standpoint, just bringing transparency to our budget. From what I understand, and this is getting third-hand information from other elected officials, is that the budget just really isn't itemized. You're getting a summarized version, basically, and the aldermen are being asked to approve that budget without really knowing where a lot of that money is going. And so for me personally, I think I would like to see a more itemized budget.
Okay, very good. Back to the schools for just a final question. The schools known as the 3G schools. Any comments, any thoughts on that issue?
Specifically, was there a direction you'd like me to go? Because that's a broad topic.
Just, are you in favor, mainly, are you in favor of the 3G schools or the elementary and middle school returning to Germantown as part of the Germantown system?
Well, Ruth, when I'm out visiting with voters, the thing that I'm hearing is that when we lost those 3Gs, it was like somebody stopped our heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so if we could get that back, I think it would reinvigorate our city. And I think it would be a lot like regaining the heartbeat back. Whether it's the heartbeat of our citizens or the heartbeat of the city itself, you know, those schools are kind of central for us. They have a lot of history. Even for me, you know, my cousin went to school there.
And that's a wonderful way to end to talking about the heartbeat of the city. So, thank you very much. I'd like to thank Dean Massey for taking the time out of his day to be on the show and sharing his vision for the Germantown Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Position 3. Stay tuned for more interviews with other candidates running for the Germantown Board of Mayor and Aldermen.